السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد. Brothers and sisters in Islam, and continuing with the conversation between Luqman and his son, we come to the second piece of advice, which is actually a divine interjection and not actually the words of Luqman. Almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was narrating us the conversation between Luqman and his son, and then decides to plug this addition here in this story due to its importance. Nonetheless, it is an integral component to frame these jewels of advice that is being imparted to this young man from his father to help shape and develop his character as he transitions through life. Because if a man learns early on in life to respect the woman that gave him life, then perhaps he will learn to respect all of the women that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place in his path to help nurture and cultivate that life. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Ad-dunya mata' wa khayr mata' ad-dunya al-mar'atu salihah." That all of this world and everything in it is cursed. All of it. It's just a temporary enjoyment. It's not real. It's an illusion. It's a mirage. And the best mata', the best that you can get from this world, خَيْرَ مَتَاعِ الدُّنْيَا, the most temporary, the best temporary enjoyment that you can get out of this world is a righteous woman. Mar'atu salihah. This entire dunya and everything in it is cursed. All of it. All of it. And the best part of this world that a man can get from it is a righteous woman. And unfortunately, we don't have time to unpack that hadith. But there's so much to mention about that. Because it's almost as if men, the woman is at the bottom of the list of our priorities. A righteous woman is at the bottom of our list of priorities while we're going after status, while we're going after our ego, while we're going after competition with other men, while we're going and chasing the world and seeing how much of it we can acquire. And then after all of that, then at the bottom of the list, let me go ahead and get married. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. If you only knew how much you could accomplish with a righteous woman by your side. If you only knew. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in these ayats, وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ أَنِ اشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ إِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have enjoined upon man to be dutiful to his parents. Pay attention to the ayah. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ. We have enjoined upon man to be dutiful to his parents. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. His mother carried him in difficulty on top of difficulty. وَفِصَالُهُ فِي عَامَيْنِ. And his weaning period, his breastfeeding period was a total of 2 years. أَنِشْكُرْ لِي وَلِوَالِدَيْكَ. Show gratitude to me and to your two parents. وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ. وَإِلَيَّ الْمَصِيرُ. And to me is your final return. Let's unpack this ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many verses in the Quran ties the rights of the parents to his rights. His right to be worshipped alone, he also ties the right of the parent to his right. More importantly, the right of the mother. And this underscores the importance and the seriousness of this particular aspect of our lives, meaning how we engage our parents, and more importantly, how we engage our mothers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another ayat in the Quran, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And your Lord has decreed that you be dutiful to your two parents, that none be worshipped except him, and that you be dutiful to your two parents. Then he goes on, he said, إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبْرَ أَحَدَهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا وَقُل لَّهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and if you manage to live long enough to see your parents reach old age, that if one of them or two of them reach old age in your lifetime, فَلَا تَقُل لَّهُمَا أُفٍّ. Do not say to them uff, which is the least amount of disrespect that could come out of your mouth towards your parents. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. And do not repel them. وَقُل لَّهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And speak to them in a kind manner, in a respectful way, in a gentle way. Even if you disagree. Doesn't mean that you have to accept everything that your parents project, but you can disagree without being disrespectful. Going back to the verse in Surah Al-Luqman, we notice how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the verse with respecting the two parents. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ. And we have enjoined upon man to be dutiful to his two parents. But then we notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala segues into putting the focus completely on the woman. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. His mother carried him in difficulty on top of difficulty. He starts off mentioning respecting both parents, and then he segues, transitions into putting the focus completely upon the mother. And this aligns with the Prophet ﷺ's insistence that the mother is more entitled to the child's respect and reverence and obedience than the father. As the Prophet ﷺ was asked in an authentic hadith, Ya Rasulullah, man ahaqq an-nas bi suhbati, who is more deserving of my companionship, more deserving of my company, more deserving of my respect? And the Prophet ﷺ said, Ummuk, your mother. He said, Thumma man, then who? The Prophet ﷺ said, Ummuk, your mother. He said, Thumma man, then who? The Prophet ﷺ said, Ummuk, your mother. He said, Thumma man, then who? Then the Prophet ﷺ said, Abuk, your father. 3 times the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the mother, which means that she has 3 times the right than the father. Some scholars deduct from this that mothers have more right and more entitled to obedience from their children in the event that their obeying the mother conflicts with obeying the father than obedience is to the mother. Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, that great scholar, Imam Malik ibn Anas, he was asked by a man, Su'ila Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala, Inna abi yatlub minni an aqduma ila Sudan, wa ana huna fil Medina. فَأَيْهُمَا أُطِيعُ. Imam Malik was asked by a man, my father lives in Sudan, and we live here in Medina. My father is requesting that I come to him in Sudan, but my mother doesn't want me to go. Which one of them do I obey? And Imam Malik looked at the man and he said to him, أَطِيعْ أَبَاكَ وَلَا تَعْصِي أُمَّكَ. Obey your father, but don't disobey your mother. How do we understand this? That means that obey your father, so as long as obeying your father does not conflict with obeying your mother. If it conflicts with disobeying your mother, then precedence is given to obedience to your mother. Didn't you hear what the Prophet ﷺ said? Ummuk, 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 your mother, your mother, your mother. Did you not hear that? Yet fathers find a way to brody their way into taking precedence. His word is law under the guise of obey your husband. Being the Khalifa, being the leader, being a Qawama, being the protectors and maintainers. Don't take away the autonomy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the woman. Nonetheless, this magnificent right that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conferred to the mother is as a result of the divine relationship between woman and God. There is a very unique, very beautiful relationship between a woman and her creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses women. If you never thought about it like this, I want you to walk away with this today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses women as the vessel, the vehicle for souls to have a human existence on this earth. The only reason why we are here, souls are occupying our physical bodies, is because our mothers provided the bodies, provided the womb, provided the vessel for that to happen. Otherwise, that wouldn't have happened. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the authentic hadith, إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ يُجْمَعُ خَلْقَهُ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا نُطْفَةً. That the creation of one of you is gathered in the womb of the mother for a period of 40 days as a nutfa, as a mixture of male and female seminal fluid. ثُمَّ يَكُونُ عَلَقَةً مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And then it becomes a clot of blood for another 40 days. ثُمَّ يَكُونُ مُضْغَةً مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And then it becomes a mudghah. It becomes a lump of flesh that clings to the uterus for another 20 days. That's 120 days. That is the couple of weeks past the first trimester. And then what happens? The Prophet ﷺ said, يُرْسِلُ إِلَيْهِ مَلَكٌ فَيُنْفَخُ فِيهِ الرُّوحِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends an angel to that woman carrying that fetus, and the angel blows the soul into that fetus while it's in the mother. The mother has now become, in modern vernacular, has become the plug. You understand? The woman is the plug between our existence in this world and the existence of the spiritual world. There's nothing that is more magnificent than that. She is the portal between the spiritual world and the physical world. Such a beautiful status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has conveyed to this, or conferred upon this woman. The word womb itself in Arabic is a derivative of one of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beautiful names and attributes, Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman is his name. The word for womb in Arabic is Ar-Rahim. You can hear the mushtaqat. You can hear the Arabic letters that are in there. Ra, Ha, Mim. Rahim is the word for womb, and it is a derivative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name, Ar-Rahman. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ خَلَقَ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ إِذَا فَرَغَ مِنْهَا قَامَتَ الرَّحِمُ فَقَالَتْ هَذَا مَقَامِ الْعَائِذ بِكَ مِنَ الْقَطِيعَةِ فقال الله جل وعلا نعم أترضين أن أصل من وصلك وأقطع من يقطع قالت بلى قال الله جل وعلا فذلك لك. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when Allah was finished creating creation, the womb had a conversation with God. Wallah al-Azim, you're not going to find this in any other religion. You're not going to find this in any other text. This is the beauty of Islam. The womb had a conversation with God. We could write an entire volumes of books that can be written on this one little aspect and how profound it is. The womb said to Allah, I seek refuge with you from qati'ah, for anyone who separates themselves from me. How does the womb carry this child? Something magnificent happens after 120 days. The soul is blown into that child while that child is in the mother, surviving off the mother's blood. Something magnificent is happening at that point. And the womb is afraid that she will give birth to a child that will separate themselves from them. And the womb says to Allah, I seek refuge with anyone from that separates themselves from me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the womb, would it please you that anyone who separates themselves from you, I separate myself from them? And anyone who keeps ties with you, I keep ties with them. And the womb said, yes, oh my Lord. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَلَكِ ذَلِكَ. That's for you. A status that no one else has been given. This alone should be enough to garner the respect for the sacredness, a respect for the sacredness of the woman. However, unfortunately, we live in a time where women, mothers, have been reduced to objects. Objects which are subject to exploitation of every kind, financial, emotional, sexual. Look at how women are abused and used in this day and time. Meanwhile, we totally overlook this connection between a woman and God, thus stripping her of her true nature under the guise of gender equality, liberation from social and cultural norms, which may in fact have been framed from a traditional male chauvinistic paradigm. However, it also preserved and maintained some of the sacredness that has long been forgotten as it relates to our interaction and engagements with women. It is like the removal of one thing. When we remove one thing, then it brings about the destruction of another. Yeah, we want you to be liberated. Yeah, we want you to exercise the freedoms that God has given you. But in the process of doing that, you go too far and you end up reducing yourself to less than what God had intended for you. God did not put women here to do what men can do. He put you here to do what men can't do. Understand your role is more divine than what society is telling you that it is. You are not put here to do what we can do. You're put here to do things that we can't do. It is like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to cite the painful process of childbirth, something that is an exclusive experience of women that men can only try to sympathize with or identify with, but would never be totally able to fathom or understand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ وَهْنًا عَلَى وَهْنٍ. The mother carried him in difficulty on top of difficulty. So let me share something with our men today about the process of childbirth. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not include this in the Quran except that it was important. So important that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stopped the conversation between Luqman and his son and decided to put this in here. This edition, you need to know about this. Because some of us are absent at the time that our wives are pregnant, going through this painful process. Some women go through this entire process by themselves because we're out earning a living. We're out hanging out with the brothers. But you miss this whole entire process that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. Every time, don't you know that every time that a woman gets pregnant, she risks her life? Every single time. So why we want baby after baby after baby, right? We want our wives to give us this whole army that we end up neglecting anyway. None of them know any Quran. None of them have any sound understanding of the Aqidah of Islam. These are the type, this is the army that you want. You building an army for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or army for shaitan? Hizbullah or Hizb shaitan? Look at your children. All of them, from the oldest to the youngest. What have you done to cultivate that army? We sent them off to college to go work for somebody who never went to college. What are we doing under the guise of having a PhD? What good is having a PhD when you're not speaking truth to power? When you work, you have full tenure at a university where you got a puppet and you got to follow a script that has been handed to you after you did all of these years of study. What type of slave are you? Still a slave to a system. Regardless of your PhD, your master's degree, that means nothing to me if you're not speaking truth to power. But this is, all right? So let me explain to you this process. Every time a woman gets pregnant, she runs the risk of losing her life every single time. Pregnancy complications range from mild to severe, and in some instances can even be fatal. The complications can be physical. Don't you know that some women, after having children, or while or during pregnancy, they develop a type of diabetes while they're pregnant with your child? They develop a type of diabetes, obesity. Some women never regain the weight size that they were. They have to live with that weight. And while we look at them as if they're grotesque, as if we look at them as if I'm not attracted to you anymore, you're not attracted to her anymore because she had your children. So you find her grotesque, so you're going to go find another wife. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Blood in my eye. First of all, I'm doing you a favor having your children. And then you turn around and blame me for being overweight. Some women can't shake that. Stuck with it. And then we find fault with them for it. Some women have hypertension, even infections that they get. Sometimes from us as men, as we are out rendezvousing with somebody else, a mistress, and then we come home and sleep with our wives. She gets pregnant and come to find out she has a type of herpes. She has this type of this. Because when she's pregnant, the body is flushing itself out. So all of the diseases that she was carrying before now come to the forefront. So while we look at ourselves as men, like, I don't have nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with you because none of the symptoms are showing. That doesn't mean that you're okay. There are mental complications that women suffer from when they're pregnant, like depression, thoughts of suicide, even feelings of guilt and shame. There's something called MMR, and that is maternal mortality ratio, which calculates the number of deaths a year that as a result of pregnancy complications. Don't you know that in America, right here, this first world country, between 700 to 850 women die on a yearly basis as a result of pregnancy-related complications, statistically. Almost 1,000 women a year. And that's not talking about third world countries where the poverty levels are so extremely high. So there's no doubt, there's no wonder that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the woman who dies in such a manner, dies giving birth, she dies being amongst those who receive the highest rank, the highest status known to a human being as they transition from this physical world to the next world, and that is none other than martyrdom. The Prophet ﷺ, he said to his companions, he said, مَا تَعُدُّونَ الشَّهَادَةِ. What do you consider martyrdom? Who do you consider to be a martyr? And the Sahaba said, قَالُوا الْقَتْلِ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Someone who dies fighting in the cause of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, الشَّهَادَةِ سَبْعَ سِوَى ذَلِكَ. The shahada, martyrdom, is 7 different types outside of dying in the cause of Allah. He said, al-mat'un, shaheed, someone who dies from plague. From a plague, he dies as a martyr. Al-gharaq, shaheed, someone who dies from drowning, dies as a martyr. Wa-sahib, that al-jam, shaheed, Wal-mabtoon, shaheed, someone who dies, having something fall on him, a building collapses upon him, he dies as a martyr. Someone who dies from intestinal issues, colon cancer, anything intestinal from the stomach, then he dies as a martyr. Wasahib hariq, shaheed, the person who dies by burning, gets burnt up in a building, dies by fire, dies by burning, he dies as a martyr. والذي تموت تحت الهدم شهيد والمرأة تموت بجمع شهيدة يعني حاملا, and a woman who dies carrying a child or delivering a child dies as a martyr. The highest level that a human being can reach, and as they transition from this world to the next, is given to the woman as a result of pregnancy or delivery related complications. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he underscores the pain that mothers experience during pregnancy, it is to emphasize their right to respect and reverence as well as conditional obedience. As obedience to any human being is always conditional. La ta'ata li makhluqin fi ma'siyatil khaliq. There's no obedience to the creation and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So while if the mother and father, obeying the mother and father conflict, we give precedence to the mother. But if obeying our mother conflicts with obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we give precedence to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We love our mothers, but we love God more. We love our mothers, we love our fathers, but we love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. As Allah says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبٍّ لِلَّهِ, and those who believe love Allah more. We love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. This is in addition to the fact that the child lives off of the mother's blood in the womb and the energy that she exerts during the early stages of the child's development, like breastfeeding, potty training, and the nurturing of morals and values and character through a process of constant education and cultivation, are all complementary factors that should support the initial command to respect your mother. Complementary. All that breastfeeding and nurturing and potty training, teaching you how to talk, that's all complementary. Respect should be given to her on the very basis that her connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is probably stronger than anyone's. There's no mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having a conversation with Adam before his creation. There's no mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having a conversation with anyone else from his creation other than the womb that is in the woman. So respect for the mother doesn't just apply to her children, brothers. Respect for your mother doesn't just apply to the children, but it applies to the husbands, the men of these women. As men, we don't usually consider this point because the thought never occurs to us that much of the interaction between the children and their mother is cultivated and predicated on the interaction of the father with the mother. Much of the way that our children interact with their mothers is predicated on the way that we engage them. And we don't really think about that. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, leave you with this before we end the first half of the khutbah. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, إِذَا اعْتَبَرْتَ الْفَسَادِ فِي الْأَوْلَادِ رَأَيْتَ عَامَتَهُ مِنْ قِبِلِ آبَاءِ. He said that if you consider the corruption of most of the children, you will find that much of their corruption comes as a result of their fathers. What they watch us do. The hypocrisy. Go pray, but you don't pray. You smoke cigarettes in front of your children. You smoke marijuana in front of your children. You listen to profane music in front of your children. You don't even have the decency to say, I'm not going to do that in front of my kids. You curse your wife out in front of your children. You smack your wife in front of your children. And then you get upset when your children do it to their mother. Gotta be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. Wallah al-Azim, I was in a lecture in California. A sister came up to me without mentioning what her culture was or what her ethnicity was, came up to me crying. And she said, Wallahi, my son disrespects me. My son disrespects me. Tears in her eyes. He calls me a bitch. Her son. And I said, well, what does the father do? She said, he hits me in front of her. I said, well, then that's the point. That's the reason why. The son is watching his father disrespect his mother. I don't understand why we can't, as you want to be the protectors and maintainers of your women, then you protect them from yourself and you maintain them the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you to. Not the way you want to maintain them. Not the way your culture has taught you to maintain them. Maintain them the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you. She is Allah's creation. And if we choose to not do that, then she also has a Lord. And the dua of the oppressed is always answered. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Thalathu da'wat mustajabat la shakka fihinna." There are three supplications that will always be responded to. And one of those three is da'wat al-walida, the dua of the mother, the dua of the parent, as well as the dua of the oppressed, the madloom. So she has 2 out of 3. The third one is the traveler. God forbid she's a refugee from another country who was brought here against her will. And she got all 3. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بما جاء فيه من الآيات والذكر الحكيم أقول ما تسمعون أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to emphasize the rights of the parents by turning our attention to the fact that in trying to love both parents, we might run into challenges, namely that of clashing faiths or clashing religions. And this is especially true for those of us who have converted to Islam. Those who have not converted to Islam and have a long lineage of Islam in your family, you don't have a clue what it means to have a parent that opposes you because they don't believe in what you believe. And some may have, depending on what type of methodology the parents were upon, whether they were Shia, whether they were Sufi, whether they were this or whatever methodology or approach to Islam that they were upon. And then you choose to follow a path that you believe is the correct way, which is following the Quran and the Sunnah based upon the understanding of the first 3 generations of the Sahaba. Radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. You might run into conflict with your parents. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, He says, وَإِن جَاهَدَاكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبَهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا. He said, and if your parents make jihad, he used the word jahada, jihad, they fight with you to associate partners with me that I have not given you any authority to do so, then do not obey them. فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا, don't obey them. وَصَاحِبَهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, but live with them in this world in a manner that is reasonable, kind. We don't obey them. There is nothing that challenges our love and our respect for our parents like indifference. Rather, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. There's nothing that challenges our love for someone than indifference. Love has to endure the layers of challenges that confront our relationships with those who are close to us. Islam teaches us that love, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, insert that. Love, insert for the sake of Allah, conquers all. Love for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conquers all. As Allah says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ, and those who believe love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. And there is no obedience to the creation and disobedience to the Creator. This is very important for those of us who are new converts to Islam, who are oftentimes put in positions to be recipients of what is called reverse victimization, where you convert to Islam and now somehow your parents are the victims of your conversion to Islam. Reverse victimization, where the parents and the loved ones somehow become victims of your spiritual transition. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala captures the conversation between Ibrahim and his father Azar, when he was trying to tell his father, don't worship idols, don't follow shaitan. Ya abati la ta'bud shaitan. Oh my father, don't worship shaitan. Oh my father, knowledge has come to me that hasn't come to you. Fattabi'ni ahdika siratan sawiya. Follow me and I will guide you to the straight path. And at the end of that conversation, Ibrahim's father, Azar, turns to him. He said, "Arahibun anta an alihati ya Ibrahim? Are you turning away from my idols, the idols that have ruled our family for generations? Are you turning away from that? If you do not get away from me, I will stone you to death. Wahjur li maliyan, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you anymore." And those of us who have converted to Islam know this firsthand. We have experienced this firsthand. And unfortunately, the insensitivity of the Muslim community, we could care less about what you have experienced as a new convert. You're here, you're Muslim, be patient, and all of the other generalized, points of, pieces of advice that we give, and you don't really understand the depth of the war that you are in between you and your parents. Some people have been put out with just the clothes on their back. Some people have been, ostracized from their entire family, only to come to the masjid and have a Muslim nitpick them apart. Oh, your pants is too long. Oh, you don't have a beard. Oh, brother, you shouldn't do that. Oh, sister, take those off. You shouldn't wear that. It's like, do you not see that I am a work in progress? Do you not understand that I am at war with a family that are entirely Christians, and I am the only Muslim in my family? The last thing I want to hear is what my dress code should be, what my beard should look like. That's the last thing I need to hear right now. I need comfort. I need sensitivity. I need support. I need understanding. And this is exactly the way that the Prophet ﷺ engaged the Sahaba during his time. The Prophet ﷺ was instructed by Jibreel to leave out of his house and go to the Baqi' and go make dua for the people who were in the graveyard. Aisha thought that he was going to another wife's house. So in a fit of jealousy, in a fit of rage, she rushed, she put her izar on, she put her skirt on, and she ran out. She didn't even have a hijab on. When Aisha saw the Prophet ﷺ walking back to the house, she hurried up and she jumped in the bed, took off her clothes, jumped in the bed. The Prophet ﷺ looked at the sheet and could see the sheet rising up and down. She's breathing hard. Man knows he's wise. And he pulls back the sheet and he says, "Aisha, Maliki, what's up with you? What's wrong?" And she said nothing. He said, "Either you are going to tell me what's going on, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-alim al-khabir, the all aware, the all knowledgeable, will tell me what's going on." And she said, "When I saw you leave out, I thought, you left out so quietly, so subtly, I thought you were going to one of your other wives' house." The Prophet ﷺ said, "Did you think that I would deceive you? You think I would do something like that to you? I'm a man of honor. I marry my women in public. I don't ever have to sneak to do what I need to do as a man. That's what men do. Boys sneak around. Men don't have to sneak. If you are protected and maintained of your family like you claim you are, then you wouldn't have to do what boys do, sneak around, lie, cheat, steal. You don't have to do that. Which is why the Prophet ﷺ said, 3 people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will neither purify them from their sins on the day of judgment, nor will he look at them, nor will he speak to them, and for them is a painful punishment. And one of those 3 is a Malik al-Kadhab, a king who lies. Because if you're a king, you don't need to lie. If you're in a king status, you're the authority. You don't have to lie. You deal with the uncomfortability of speaking truth. You got to sit in that discomfort, but I don't have to lie to placate your feelings. Nonetheless, the clear example of this reverse victimization is found in a very interesting story about one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ who converted to Islam and had to deal with an indifferent mother. He narrates the hadith himself. He said, "Kuntu rajulan barran bi ummi." He said, "I was a man who honored and respected my mother." He said, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمْتُ, and when I converted to Islam, قالت أمي يا سعد ما هذا الدين الذي أحدثت. He said, and when I converted to Islam, my mother said to me, "Oh Sa'ad, what is this religion you have invented? What is this new faith you have invented?" And she continued by saying, لَتَدَعَنَّ دِينَكَ هَذَا أو لا آكل ولا أشرب حتى أموت فيعيرك بي العرب. She said that if you do not abandon this faith of yours, this new religion of yours, this Islam of yours, Muslims, you don't abandon this faith of yours. Wallahi, I will not eat and drink until I die. And when I die, the whole Arab nation, the whole community will blame you for my death. Reverse victimization. So now you the victim because I decided to take a different path. Some of our children right now caught up in this cultural tradition. You got to marry from our tribe. You got to marry your cousin. You got to marry this one or marry that one, and they don't want to. And when they decide to take a different path, now you take issue. Is it haram? Is the person Muslim? Do they meet all of the qualifications and conditions of marriage in Islam? Then what's the problem? Did the Prophet ﷺ marry, women in his community, marry his own daughters, to men from other tribes, from people from other tribes? He did it. This is the best of our nation. Did he himself not marry women from other tribes other than Quraysh? Did he not marry women who converted to Islam from other religions? And while you might say, oh, that was for the Prophet ﷺ, well, if that is your excuse, then why be Muslim? Because aren't we trying to be like the Prophet ﷺ? To say, oh, that was for the Prophet ﷺ, that basically saying there's a double standard. That applies to him, that don't apply to me. And that statement, that belief, that thought in itself might actually be kufr. But she said that you're going to abandon your faith, or I'm going to die out of starvation, out of thirst, and then you will be held accountable socially for our community because you allowed that to happen to me. Saad, he looked at his mother, and I'll end with this. Saad looked at his mother. He said, La taf'ali ya ummi. He said, don't do this, mommy. Mom, don't do this. He said, Wallahi inni uhibbuk. I swear to God, I love you. You're my mother. I love you. He said, فَإِنِّي لَا أَدْعَ دِينِي هَذَا. He said, for I will never abandon this religion of mine. He said, لَوْ أَنَّ لَكِ أَلْفَ نَفْسٍ. If you had 100, in another narration, he said 100, and another narration, he said 1,000. If you had 1,000 souls, وَخَرَجَتْ مِنْكِ نَفْسًا نَفْسًا, and you were to lose every soul, one after another was to exit your body, you would run out of souls before I abandon my religion. You would run out of souls before I give up my faith. I'm sorry, I love you, but loving you doesn't mean I have to placate your feelings. I have to accommodate your agenda. Sorry. You don't get to reverse the victimization on me. Sorry. And one has nothing to do with the other, meaning I can still love you, but I don't need to follow, your agenda. I still love you, though. Because in this day and time, we associate love with absolute, complete 100% compliance. If you disagree with me in any little way, oh, you don't love me. Even amongst husband and wives. I don't have a right to agree with you. I don't have a right to disagree with you. One situation that involves two people, they have two different perspectives on it. I don't have to see it the way that you saw it. My extension, being married to you, my view or my perspective is not an extension of your perspective. You saw it one way, I see it completely. But I still love you, though. I don't have to share, your thoughts about it. And we need to learn how to sit in that discomfort that the person doesn't agree with you. So now there's no sexual relations tonight because I didn't agree with you. No food tonight because I didn't agree with you. You and your feelings for a whole week because I didn't agree with you. Get over yourself. Are we that hell-bent on our opinions that we impose them on other people? So Saad told his mother, if you had 1,000 lives and each life was to exit your body one after another, wallahi, you would run out of lives before I gave up my faith. And what do you think his mother did? She ate. Because she realized that a man that is this adamant about a belief ain't going anywhere. Many of us, people convert to Islam, whether in jail and under, duress or under, very, unique circumstances. And we go to our families and we say, we're Muslim. And they're sitting back saying, yeah, well, I wonder how long this is going to last. Because they know you haven't been serious about anything in your whole entire life. You haven't completed anything in your life. You haven't completed high school. You didn't complete college. You didn't go anywhere with football. You didn't go anywhere with basketball. You didn't go anywhere with anything. You haven't completed anything in your life. And now you accept the religion, and now all of a sudden you want to have a commitment. You don't even have a concept of commitment. We haven't proven to our families that we are serious about Islam. When Saad said that to his mother, she started eating and drinking because she realized there was no change in this man's mind. That's the level of conviction that we need. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we learn to develop this level of yaqeen, this level of conviction. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He forgive us for any of our shortcomings that we have had with respect to how we treat our women. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He endow us and bestow upon us the mercy, the rahmah, the ra'fa, the compassion, the mercy that is necessary to create happy, wholesome families. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم إننا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب عملا يقربنا إلى حبك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الظالمين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على عبدك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة